Yep. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 2024 operating budget. We have several guests with us today. Thank you. And as long as our council committee members are here. Just want to say on the Budget and Finance Committee, I'm Chairman Phil Lombardo. Linda Mobian is on the Budget and Finance Committee. Jeff Fusco, Tina Boyes is on Zoom, and James Hardy, I assume, is on Zoom, or maybe not. Okay, James Hardy absent. So we are going to have the mayor's office present first. We have a couple of departments here, but we'll get to them as we continue on here. So without any further ado, maybe our Director of Finance, Steve Fricker, would like to say a few words.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So welcome, everyone, to day one of our budget hearings. We have a pretty large agenda today. We have the Mayor's Office, the Office of Integrated Development, Economic Development Division, and the Office of Integrated Development Planning Division. We have the Citizens Police Oversight Board, and then we have our public safety divisions, both public safety admin as well as police and fire today. So if we could, when we go through the various presentations, each department is going to present, and then if there are questions about any of the numbers in the budget, then we can address those after the presentation. Also, a little bit of housekeeping. The goals and objective document has been posted out into the shared directories now. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Britt Zeringer, our Chief of Staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Lombardo, President Somerville, for the opportunity to present this afternoon. My name is Brittany Grimes-Zeringer, and I'm Chief of Staff for Mayor Malik. The mayor has said on numerous occasions that Akron has the most amazing people, and we would like to thank the city's nearly 2,000 employees for being some of the most amazing people and for all of the hard work that they do on behalf of all of the citizens. It has truly been a pleasure for Mayor Malik and his administration to serve alongside the dedicated public servants who work for the city. I would also like to thank Steve Fricker, our Finance Director, and Mike Wheeler, Deputy Finance Director, and their team for all of their hard work on the preparation of this year's budget. I am pleased to lead off 3 days of presentations highlighting, where appropriate, last year's accomplishments and this current year's priorities. During this first grouping, I will also cover communications and then be followed by Nanette Pitt, Chief of Strategy, Esther Thomas, Director of DEI, and Casey Shevlin, Director of Sustainability and Resiliency. On numerous occasions, the mayor has stated his goals and priorities, most notably in his 100-day plan, which launched in February with over 70 goals and was shared with council leadership and council over the last month. While cabinet members and other city colleagues will share more on some of these goals and priorities over the next 3 days, let me highlight the overreaching priorities again. Public safety is the mayor's #1 priority. Safer together. Working together in economic development. Living together, which encompasses health, housing, and the environment. Learning together, education. Building the team. Modernizing city operations, and prioritizing communications and public engagement. Highlights of the budget that are before you include promoting safety by prioritizing police and fire hiring with the highest number of uniformed police and fire in decades. We will also look at efforts at retention of those same forces. Realigning the mayor's office to improve the way the city government interacts with the public, improve collaboration, and implement strategic initiatives. Invest in key personnel to achieve key priorities and support key city services. Continues ARPA expenditures, investing in parks and public spaces, lead service replacement, to name a few. Modernizing city operations by clarifying and enhancing internal contracting procedures to ensure competitive processes, a process that we are undertaking currently with Guidehouse, and continuation of workday enhancements. And finally, prioritizing communications and public engagement by promoting frequent social media engagement, conducting regular live stream press conferences, and more communication with staff and professional development. Before I yield for questions and then to Nanette Pitt, Chief of Staff, I would also like to thank the Mayor's administrative staff, Lori Hoffman, Teresa Lloyd, and Lauren Marsh, for their hard work and dedication, particularly during this transition period from one administration to the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Two things. Just wanted to recognize a Budget and Finance member, James Hardy, is now on Zoom. Thanks, James. And secondly, when we're presenting, we have this operating budget document. If we can refer to the page, if anybody would like to follow along, hard copy wise, if you can just say the page number that you're on now and then. Okay?
We started on page 52.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Nanette Pitt.
Thank you, Chair Lombardo, and thank you to President Somerville, the members of the committee, and the council at large. I believe you will find the Mayor's Office of Strategy on page 54. I'll give you a minute to get there. The Office of Strategy is a newly defined office, newly established, consisting of a public safety strategist, a health and education strategist, a youth opportunity strategist, policy and grants strategist, a grants manager, and myself as Chief of Strategy. Our purpose as a team is to support the city and various stakeholders within the community reach impactful and long-term goals that will help improve the safety, the well-being, the growth, and the prosperity of Akron's residents. Mayor Sharmas Malik ran on a strong campaign for change, and our team is here to realize those goals. So we work alongside the day-to-day functions of the city on those long-range strategic goals. The goals of our team include implementing a community violence intervention ecosystem, improving and bolstering the community violence prevention efforts by supporting our out-of-school time initiatives, facilitating community-based efforts to establish universal pre-K for Akron, lobbying for state and federal funding and strengthening intergovernmental relationships through both funding and policy, and then prioritizing and enabling public engagement through town halls, surveys, and other initiatives. The strategy team looks forward to working with the City Council and all other parts of our community and local government to make change. I would welcome your questions.
If we have any questions from any council members, I will entertain those with Nanette, and we'll take them in order of who's on the committee first. So, Councilman James Hardy, go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to City Administration. There is a lot to be excited about in this inaugural budget for the Malik administration. I will say one thing that surprised me greatly, though, was the size of the mayor's office budget. And that's the nature of my question. If I'm reading it correctly, pages 52 to 57, we're at over $3.5 million in total spend and 23 FTEs, which, if I'm reading it correctly, makes it the largest cabinet and the largest mayor's office budget in Akron history. So when I get the inevitable phone call from a constituent asking me what are they getting for that significant increase in mayor's office budget and staff, what should I tell them?
Okay, thank you. Nanette.
So in the absence of the Director of Finance, who I think should weigh in on the question too, I would, I would answer by saying, Councilman Hardy, if I were to receive that question, I would submit that rather than an expense, one might argue that we are making an investment in the future of Akron and in the change that members of the community voted for when they voted for Mayor Malik. in order to see those initiatives come to life, we use human resource mostly, and to collaborate and to bring those initiatives out and to run them out into the community. I know that Director Steve Fricker will be able to answer the overall question about the mayor's office as a whole and the budget numbers that you raised, but I do know that overall we have added a net of 8 full-time positions to the budget. And I would hand over to you.
Mr. Fricker, would you like Councilman Hardy to repeat the question as you were walking?
Yeah, that would
Okay.
be great.
Councilman Hardy, could you repeat your question?
Sure.
In summary?
And I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Fricker, but the question is really more about justification, which Ms. Pitt, you helped greatly with that. But it's really just making sure, I guess for you, Steve, is if I'm reading pages 52 to 57 correctly, the mayor's office budget is a little over $3.5 million and 23 FTEs. Is that an accurate reading?
That is correct. So as Nanette said, we've added 8 additional positions. Now, in addition to that, there are 4 positions in the mayor's office that really are not new positions, but were moved from other divisions to the mayor's office. So it's a net increase of 8 positions.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
So that helps greatly. I appreciate it. I would just encourage, which I know is all I can do, I would just encourage the administration as you think about the town hall that's coming up and just in communications, like saying, well, the mayor promised a lot in the campaign and we want to deliver on it. That to me is an insufficient answer. I'll be honest with you. We have a lot of people in the community that are hurting, that we all care about, and a lot of their needs are represented in this budget. But as someone who sat in your position and got grilled about my own salary, I'm not trying to do that now. What I'm trying to do is say, it is a significant increase in what historically has been the mayor's office. That just needs justification. People are going to ask questions. They want to know what they're getting for that. I mean, for example, I don't even know all the people and what they're doing, and I'm on city council. So like if we could start to work together to figure out what all these folks doing and how are they materially benefiting Akron citizens, I think that would go a long way in helping us on council explain the expense.
Okay, thank you. Message noted, question noted. So, I could just say this. I mean, the mayor's staff is I guess we need to have time with them, just like you said, because, the old saying, they didn't build Rome in a day. So the staff is duly noted, and more to come. There'll be communications, I'm sure, from Nanette's office and Brittany. So thank you. All right. Did you have more that you wanted to say? Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. All right. So next up after this is going to be your strategy. The communications is coming from. Okay. Oh, Steph.
In terms of prioritizing communications and public engagement by promoting frequent social media engagement, conducting regular live stream press conferences, and communication with staff and professional development. We're also looking at bringing in a data strategist that will help with synthesizing a lot of the information that is within the city and making sure that that information can be available to the council and the public in a more manageable and digestible manner.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right. Any other questions from council members? Councilman Fusco.
Thanks. So are we going to go through, how is this going to?
Okay, so the administration, strategy, communications, next is diversity and equity.
Are we going to go, just go through page by page, or just is it just going to be a
Well,
conversation about
Nanette
goals and
was
such?
describing pages 52 to 57, I believe it was.
Gotcha, I understand that. Okay, so now we can ask questions specifically about the numbers, right?
Yes.
At this point? Okay, just want to make sure. So I see here on page 53, I reckon, I think that's it. It went from 11 to 7 employees. And are those
Okay.
4 moves?
So, yeah, so let me explain a little bit. So last year, we really did not have separate divisions within the mayor's office. We just had the mayor's administration. We did have labor relations. That is now a part of human resources. So last year's number reflects the 11 people that were in mayor's administration. This year, we've had separate divisions. We have administration, we have strategy, communications, DEI, and sustainability. So
Gotcha.
that's why. So while the admin number went down, there are additional cost centers on pages 54, 55, 56 that
Okay, yeah.
have the other people within the mayor's office.
I suspected as
Yeah.
much, but I just wanted to ask the question. And maybe, because it's somewhat, because on page, you see 4 less, and then on the next page, there's 7 more. And so, yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
kinda
so it just reflects that we now have separate sections or divisions within the mayor's office.
Gotcha. And that's reflected, of course, at the very beginning, which certainly appreciate that, and that's in the full-time staffing summary. It's
Correct, yeah.
located
So
at
if you
the
look at
beginning.
page 52, I believe it would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so that
that's
has the complete listing, so that's how
Gotcha.
it's all laid out.
And that's truly reflective of especially, like you had mentioned, the cost centers
Correct.
that were established. Makes sense. And, okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, without any other questions, we'll move on to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that is Esther. And, yeah, you press that button. And then if you can go over, what pages that you'll be covering. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Lombardo.
Lombardo?
Okay. Thank you, President of Council. Thank you, esteemed council members. My name is Esther Thomas, and I'm reporting for the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, the budget of which begins on page 56. The Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion is comprised of 3 people.
Just a little bit, a little closer.
Oh, a little closer?
Yeah. Or speak a little louder.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's not a problem, okay? It's comprised of 3 people, myself as director, a cultural engagement coordinator, Summer Hall, and a soon-to-be, in the process of being hired, a director of diversity, not a director, a diversity procurement and contract compliance individual to work with city contracts to make sure that any funds that are available to contractors, diversity contractors, are being procured and monitored well. I believe you have the objectives for the office. There are about 8 of them. I'm going to talk about 3 of them ever so briefly. The first goal is to promote awareness in education of diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, and to increase the competencies related to DEI principles and practices among city employees, officials, and the community. We plan to achieve those through information sessions for employees, staff, and elected officials, communicate DEI principles and priorities to stakeholders, and to develop 3 employee resource groups so that we have champions and we're seeding through the employee groups and staff these principles that are important to reflect the values of a diverse community, which Akron aspires to, and also to develop educational materials in conjunction with HR and from the office themselves. As part of that, there will be data analysis and collection to do a climate assessment of where we are. How do our stakeholders feel about diversity, equity, inclusion? More importantly, how do our employees feel? And develop additional strategies to address those needs and concerns so that every employee feels that they're valued. We've developed diversity, equity, they're included, and that they belong. and that we were creating a space for them to thrive in this administration. The second level, or the second area, is community engagement. And the goal is to engage with city employees, or I'm sorry, city residents, to understand their needs and concerns related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to create opportunities for community input via town halls, things like town halls, focus groups, informational Zooms, and mechanisms to give feedback through surveys. We will collaborate and continue to collaborate with community organizations to promote dialogue and solutions, and create platforms for marginalized voices, underheard voices, to be heard in the decision-making process. One of those goals is to engage residents in diverse art initiatives through the Akron Arts Council, and that creates pathways to underrepresented artists to access public funds and to get their expression into the public. We want to responsibly maintain the existing art that is in Akron for multi-generational benefit. The final area that I want to look at is the contract compliance and procurement. The goal is to promote equitable access and participation in city contracts for minority and women-owned businesses. How we plan on doing that is to provide clear guidelines, whether it's for MBEs, WBEs, EDGE, businesses, et cetera, reduce administrative barriers that may disproportionately affect smaller businesses and their ability to access participation, economic participation. We'll provide capacity building and technical assistance, provide inclusive outreach and networking, and to evaluate and hold accountable the monitoring of those initiatives, regularly assess the DEI initiatives, and hold the city and prime contractors accountable for meeting inclusion goals and establish contracting targets. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll have some questions from our Councilwoman Linda Amobian.
I don't know if it's much of a question as it is the fact that I am happy to hear that we are going to dig deeper and dive deeper into this area. We have talked about DEI on the surface, and now we're talking about holding leadership of departments responsible by providing training, assistance, so that everybody knows what we're talking about, and then measuring what we're doing to see if we're reaching certain outcomes. Because as this council, we have asked many times for information as to how are we doing? Are we addressing the issue that we've talked about for so long, that minorities and women have been left out of contractual opportunities and work with the city and all of those things? How are we doing in hiring and equity at every level of this organization? So for you to talk about your goals is exactly what we're looking for. And hopefully we can get some responses as to how we're progressing. This is heavy lifting work.
Yes.
This is difficult work, but it's work that we need to do, and we know that we've needed to do this for a long, long time. So I'm happy to hear that you're planning to dig deeper and dive deeper and provide the necessary training and assistance and education that people need, and to go out into the community and talk about, here are some things we're trying to do. Who's prepared to step in and help us do this work? Because we want the contractors to reflect the citizens of Akron. So I thank you very much for that, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you're doing.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Amobian.
Okay, Councilman Fusco.
Thanks. Yeah, this is the goals and objectives and everything that's planned sounds fantastic. My question, though, is more for Mr. Fricker in that, shouldn't we have one person, at least from 23, in this position? I know we had someone who was addressing this under the Horrigan administration.
So we do. So now
another-
we have a director, and then the supplier contract compliance position,
Right.
as Thomas is talking about,
Yeah.
was an existing position that has been vacant, and we are now filling it again. So,
Okay.
So we will have, within that division, there will be 3 people.
Okay, but in the past, we had one person?
We did have one person.
Which
in the
was
past.
located, where at?
So
budget for
right, and that's one of the new positions in the mayor's office. So previously, that position was split between finance and engineering.
Okay.
They focused both on the, kind of the.
Procurement?
Day-to-day procurement, the smaller dollar things, as well as the construction-based contracts that engineering had. So they were split between those 2
Okay.
areas.
So
Now
we
that
did have
position-
someone, and because I recall, we're seeing reports and such.
Right, now that position will be within the
Gotcha.
mayor's office, yeah.
Gotcha, no, and like I said, the goals and objectives that were stated, I love that, the community outreach piece, because I believe we have been looking at the procurement piece and trying to figure out ways that we can move the needle on that, and I think there has been some movement on that, but again, this is something we have to be mindful of, obviously, and continue to push for. So, thank you very much for your presentation, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, and then it's sustainability. That would be Casey.
Yes, working? Okay. Thank you, Chairman Lombardo, Council President, the rest of Council. I'm Casey Shevlin. I'm the new Director of Sustainability and Resiliency for the City of Akron Mayor's Office. And I think to Councilman Hardy's point, I'm going to maybe take things a little bit high level, kind of introduce, my vision and objectives for this department so you can get to, or this office rather, so you can get to know that a bit. So I think, sustainability is obviously kind of a complex, nuanced umbrella, concept with a lot of layers underneath it. But I think at the risk of oversimplifying, at the heart of it, it's really about longevity. It's about being able to maintain, a way of life in a harmonious way long term. And so we have known for decades, and I don't mean Akron, I don't mean us having this conversation, I just mean as a people, writ large, right? We've known for decades that the way that we're living, the trajectory that we're on is not sustainable for the environment and for the planet. And so I think the work of any sustainability program for a city, organization, corporation is about figuring out where are, in our sphere of influence that we can control are the changes that we can make, the adjustments that we can integrate in order to bring a little bit more harmony back to things and create the possibility for longevity in the long run. So that's, the work that I envision, this department doing is figuring out, I guess, twofold for the city of Akron as a municipal entity, of the things in our control, our operations, our activities, the decisions we make, the policies we set, where are the opportunities to drive more environmental improvements, and then also the city broadly, residents, businesses, the live, work, play of Akron and everywhere in between, where can we enable, accelerate, incentivize better environmental options and choices for this community. So that's, I think, like the high-level vision and mission for the work I expect to do. For this year, I think you can see the objectives, but I don't know what page the objectives are on, so.
It's number 5, page 5.
Okay. You can, I think, tell that, in the first year, I'm looking to do, I guess, like 2 buckets of things, really. One is I want to drive progress on specific initiatives. I'm sure you're familiar by now with the 100-day plan, so we're interested in, making incremental progress and relocating the waste transfer station from Middlebury. I want to help with tree canopy expansion. I want to help us go after sustainability-related federal dollars because those are available when they're available, and I want to help us not leave good money on the table. So, those things are going to take a lot of my attention this year. But then I guess the other bucket of things you see in front of you in the objectives is like laying the groundwork for the future work this office will do. So I want to kind of bring some sound governance to the work we're doing. I want to have some interdepartmental, cross-functional processes in place, community engagement practices in place. I want to be engaging with, regionally with other sustainability directors and organizations in this space that can help us and, create collaboration. So those foundational things are on my list too. So it's kind of a, it'll be a balancing act for me of accomplishing both sides of that equation. And I think what's really going to help is that we have the Bloomberg American Sustainable Cities program that we're accepted in and announced today. And the mission of that program is to help empower cities to tackle problems and find local solutions at the intersection of sustainability and climate change and racial wealth equity. So Esther and I are actually going to be, I think, collaborating quite a bit over the 3 years of the program to, ideate in that space and create initiatives that can bring equitable solutions to Akron. We get some added capacity from Bloomberg, which is why I said I think it'll help. Maybe my list is ambitious for one person, but I think, or two people rather, but I think the added capacity that Bloomberg will provide in the form of up to 3 staff that they will fully fund for 3 years, that's gonna be, I think, a big help to the both of us. And they'll also be providing, I think, a lot of resources and support to us from, project ideation to grant writing to community engagement best practices. So we're really excited, I think, about that, kind of first win in this space. I think that's it. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Casey. Any questions from our council members? Councilman Hanna?
Thank you, Chair. You were talking real fast, but I did with this ear. I heard Middlebury Transfer Station. Did you mention that?
I did, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm from New York originally, so I might be talking at a faster clip. Yes, I mentioned the Middlebury Waste Transfer Station. So that's in Mayor's 100-day plan. One of the, not an objective we're going to accomplish in the first 100 days, but we're, wanting to get started and sort of drive progress on relocating that facility.
Okay, do you have any idea or timeline on that?
I'm sorry. I think we're still kind of figuring that out, but I think in the latest contract with Waste Management that owns the facility, we stipulated that they have 24 months from the time of the agreement to get permitting for the new site, and then another 24 months to be up and operational in the new site. So that's, I think, the timeline that I can describe at this point.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you. All right, no other questions that I see. I'd like to thank the mayor's office for presenting today.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I just want to go back, if we can, to Councilman Hardy's point, $3.5 million, the largest budget Akron's history has ever seen. The 8 additional positions, can we get a list of those? Sure. Yeah. And I heard that the mayor's trying to add another position, a data position. Is that part of that 8, or is that in addition to that?
That is in the 8, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And that's 8 net, Madam President.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much again. All right, next up is going to be the Office of Integrated Development, Economic Development. And just take a brief. Okay.
Hi.
All right. We have, I know, Susie Graham and Sean Volman, David Mester, and Michelle. So, Susie, you're up first.
Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chairman Lombardo, and to President Somerville, and to the members of council. We appreciate your help in reviewing our budget and moving forward with the plan for this year. The Office of Integrated Development is represented by the Economic Development Division, and I brought our team with us here today to present on accomplishments from last year, as well as some initiatives that we have planned for this year. We should be on page 163, 165 of your budget. And I do want to take time to thank Steve Fricker and Mike Wheeler and their team for their efforts in organizing and coordinating preparation for the budget documentation, and thank the entire team of the Office of Integrated Development for their hard work this year.
And then as far as the goals and objectives, that's on page 6. Just wanted to let everybody know
Thank
that.
you.
Okay, thank you.
So at the administrative level, and I'm here again with Sean Bullman, he's the Deputy Director of Economic Development. At the administrative level, our job is to consider the best uses of city resources to support economic development across the spectrum of entrepreneurship and business, from cottage industry to mature corporations in global industry. Our 2024 work will include revising the incentive structures that we provide to businesses, aligning programs with neighborhood plans and development organizations, and advancing equity through transit-oriented development and micro and small business support. Within the purview of economic development, there are 4 departments: development, development engineering, business retention and expansion, and downtown operations, each from which we'll briefly review highlights and accomplishments from 2023 and some objectives for 2024. We're happy to take questions at any time. So beginning with the Department of Development, David Messner is our development manager, and he leads a team of 4 individuals who focus on the evaluation, acquisition, and disposition of land for community benefit, joint economic development districts activity. They manage housing and commercial development projects, ensure compliance with regulatory guidelines, and support economic development through economic and financial analysis, data collection, and research. They're also the team that serves to provide a public-private liaison position to support the development community and provide logistics and capital stack creation to finance rehabilitation, reuse projects, and other development projects. In 2023, David's team helped to standardize the RFP process for city-owned land, issued and awarded an RFP for scattered site infill housing in Sherbondi Hill to help us densify that neighborhood and stimulate the market there, and also issued and awarded an RFP for the City Center building. In 2024, goals and objectives include to establish standards for valuation of city land, update neighborhood business district market research, and negotiate the extension of agreements in our joint economic development districts. We also plan to promote and align capital resources for key downtown developments to include residential conversions, hospitality development, and reuse projects. And then finally, to design and implement an RFP for East Akron residential infill projects as well. Are there any questions from development?
I see no question. Oh, that was a hand raise. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, in East Akron. We're looking, well, East Akron and quite honestly throughout our neighborhoods in Akron where there are infill projects available. We want to come up with strategies to start building some of that infill housing to encourage our more dense neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
And moving forward into development engineering, Michelle DeFiore is our development engineering manager. Development engineering serves as a critical liaison function between economic development, planning, and the engineering bureau. The division contributes technical knowledge throughout the planning and development process and supports the implementation of projects for community benefit. So some highlights from her work this year include the Lock 3 construction that began in 2023, the Ohio and Erie Canal Summit Lake Trail that was completed in the 4th quarter of 2023, the Summit Lake Vision Plan North Shore Activity Area site work that is awarded in the 4th quarter of 2023, the opening of Perkins Park Pool celebrated in the summer of 2023, Ed Davis Community the 1st quarter of 2023, and Patterson Park Community Center also starting construction in the 4th quarter of 2023. And then finally, the implementation of the 2023 traffic calming program. This year, Michelle is looking forward to finalizing the construction of Reservoir Park Pool and Community Center, to bid the Summit Lake Vision Plan North Shore activity that I referenced that she started in 2023, to complete Ed Davis Community Center's construction, as well as that of Patterson Park Community Center, and to implement a 2024 traffic calming program utilizing community engagement to gather input on desired sites, and then to collect and share outcome data. Any questions on it?
I do have a question. Michelle, as I know the traffic calming program, and I'll keep this question to numbers when I want to reiterate, this is a meeting about the numbers and not necessarily the program in general, but the traffic calming program, we had 10 speed locations, the speed tables. That's like 20 sets, right? Did we purchase any more sets for 2024?
We own a total of 30, and we'll be looking to deploy all 30 of those. We're reviewing those recommended locations. We'll be sharing with council those recommended locations and, engage your feedback in either selecting those locations or further studying other locations.
Okay. And so the 30, again, is like 15 streets, isn't there?
That's correct.
Okay. And then isn't part of the traffic calming program the electric signs?
Yes, the radar feedback signs, the 40 that were purchased last year were installed last fall. So there are 2 sets. There should be 2 sets per ward, so 2 streets.
Okay.
And then this year, we are purchasing another 40. So we will be able to add 2 more streets. And again, council will be getting information on that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Fusco.
On page, I guess, 165, what I see is we had budgeted, and this is integrated development administration piece, I guess. It says here that we had budgeted 293. We had 2 employees for a total of 387 in 23, and then the expense side, I think I know what the answer is, but was 283, and now in 24 we're at 513. So, and I know we've added a person. What is that person?
So, we basically, we haven't really added positions within OID as a whole, but what we did do is take some positions off of CD funding and put them back to the general fund because they really weren't working on CD-related functions anymore. So that was,
Okay.
we did shift some people around just in terms of where they're funded, but we haven't
Gotcha.
really changed the number of positions.
So that would be taken out of the planning side? That one?
Correct,
position
yes.
From 23 to,
Yeah.
okay.
Kind of, is Jonna. So she
Well,
was split
there's,
between.
but there's more than that. On 165, oh, okay, I'm sorry, that is, yeah, so that's true.
For admin, the reason, I'm sorry, if you don't know, I had my tonsils out last week. So.
Oh.
For admin, the reason I think we budgeted more last year, but then KD Breck, took
Okay.
another opportunity
That's what I was-
mid-year. We did not replace her.
Okay.
Last
Yeah,
year.
and
And then Jonna Pascos, who our executive assistant, she was split between different divisions, and we thought it made sense just to put her completely under admin. So it's not a new person.
Yeah, I apologize. This is not what I said, correct, Sean. This is where Sean was split between development and BRE, and now we put her entirely within admin. So she's still funded out of the same fund that she was before.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, continue.
Okay, moving forward into business retention and expansion, I'm going to welcome Brad Beckert and Latanda Mobley to join us. Brad Beckert is our business retention and expansion manager, and Latanda Mobley is our Great Streets coordinator. Business retention and expansion, or as we call it, BRE, directs communication and collaboration with businesses inside the city of Akron and with our joint economic development districts. That partnership is highlighted through Elevate Greater Akron, where we join folks from the the county, the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Jobs Ohio to provide an efficient and effective approach to supporting business growth throughout the city. We're structured to support businesses at all phases, again, from entrepreneurship through maturation, including connections and warm handoffs to local and regional assistance providers. Our accomplishments include those of both Latanda Mobley and Julie Beckert, as well as small business outreach and the formal BRE program that Brad participates in. In 2023, Brad provided, with his leadership, over 297 in-person or via Zoom BRE visits through the Elevate Greater Akron Partnership, including small, medium, and large businesses throughout the Greater Akron area. We also utilized or committed to $350,000 of business retention grant funding to help businesses in the city grow and maintain their presence in great streets, targeted areas, and in joint economic development districts. We also assisted in the expansion of 7 companies in Akron and conducted more than 35 searches in partnership with Team NEO and Jobs Ohio to try to bring additional jobs to the city, and provided technical assistance on commercial demolition and residential demolition projects through public service. In addition, through the work of Latanda Mobley, Latanda conducted 238 site and business visits with small businesses throughout Akron's neighborhoods in the Great Streets districts, and also the Great Streets Beautification Program grew by 2 districts into a total of 6 districts, and there were also lighting enhancements completed in Kenmore and added sidewalk lighting in Goodyear Heights business districts. The districts are also community projects and events were also supported through the Great Streets Initiative and through the efforts of Latanda and Julie. In 2024, we hope to support Akron businesses through the leadership and assistance of meeting with 300 businesses at a minimum with our Elevate Greater Akron business retention effort, leveraging our federal designation as a sustainable polymer tech hub to grow existing and attract new business and quality jobs to Akron, identify and build relationships with business owners in neighborhood business districts, and also to track those holistic efforts to support those businesses as they are growing, and to coordinate with planning and existing neighborhood plans to define and support economic development strategies in our Great Streets neighborhoods. Any questions about business retention and expansion?
Yes. As far as in the budget, whatever page, 160 something, where would be the budget for the Great Streets project or programs? What page would that be on?
So the Great Streets are actually going to be within the planning department budgets. Those are funded out of the CD program, so those are going to be the long-range planning budget that we come to with the planning administration.
Oh, that'll be coming up?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll ask again. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Hardy has his hands up. Councilman
Thank you,
Hardy.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's worth noting the incredible statistics that Director Moore just rattled off. BRE is like the little engine that could, really OID is. And so just a thank you for all the hard work, Latanda, Brad, that you do, and everybody in OID, making the business calls, working with the county, the chamber, all of that. And I have a similar question to Chairman Lombardo around just getting a sense of what the staffing is for Great Streets, but it sounds like we'll hit that later.
Yes. If I forget, you remember. How's that? Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
No other questions? Please continue.
All right, thank you. And then finally, we're going to review downtown operations. Chris Griffith is our downtown operations manager. And in 2023, downtown operations managed Akron's central gathering space, although it was currently a little off-center as Lock 3 is being rebuilt and renovated. More than 248,000 people were welcomed to Lock 3 between May and September of 2023. And in the Winter Blast celebration, we welcomed 45,000 people to downtown for wintertime activities at Lock 3 in its location just adjacent to the State Street Bridge. In 2024, we will be focusing on shifting to our new space and the new location. But while we are in that process, we will continue to grow audiences expected to exceed 350,000 visitors coming downtown through summertime programming in Lock 3's backyard and wintertime programming in the renovated Lock 3 space that will open this fall with programming starting in the winter. We will diversify Lock 3 programming to ensure an exciting and inviting central gathering space for all, host a minimum of 14 large-scale community events and festivals, as well as a bicentennial celebration event as we move into our bicentennial celebration. We'll be establishing programming, development, and operating and maintenance programs to be executed within that Lock 3 park with all of its enhancements to ensure that it is well-maintained, and has a long life ahead of it. And then developing a method for gathering community feedback on events and programming and being able to share that collected data with the community. At Lock 3, I want to give Chris extra recognition. In 2022, his team, or the team at Lock 3, was running a relatively large overtime budget, and in the last year, in 2023, they significantly reduced that overtime budget. And he's looking forward to, in 2024, building a supportive organizational culture of excellence to attract and retain Lock 3 staff through training, certifications, and leadership development, and a collaboration with Jobs for Ohio's graduates and Summit DD to enhance our inclusion efforts. Any question on downtown operations?
Councilman Hardy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Moore, is this where the new parks maintenance folks are going to be housed? Am I reading that right when I see 2 additional employees?
Correct. They will be housed within the downtown operations budget.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay.
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Councilman.
That was going to be one of my questions, but you answered it. The second question I have has to do with the eclipse. Are we planning anything in particular for that? Because it sounds like it's going to be a nightmare.
So the eclipse in general, there are numerous programs that have been planned for the eclipse, and the city is coming up with an emergency plan in conjunction with the County of Summit to ensure that we have sufficient safety resources to be deployed throughout the city of Akron to assist with traffic and things like that we're expecting. On the other hand, we are anticipating that there will be a lot of people who are coming to the city to enjoy the event, and so we want to make sure that there are places for them to experience the eclipse, because again, it's a once-in-a-generation type of event. So some of those will be held without city support in locations like the Akron Zoo, Stan Hewitt. They're hosting larger events around the eclipse, and then there are smaller eclipse events throughout the city. And we should be announcing any city programming that we would be able to support very, very shortly. But there is budget to help us support any kind of event if we would need to do that. Thank you. It's an excellent question.
Yeah, I think Susie covered it all, but our safety forces have been working with both other local, federal, and state on traffic management control, combined police and fire response for many months. And so that is ongoing. And as Susie said, we will be announcing some city events that we will be supporting directly that will be focused more on people in the neighborhoods so that they can enjoy the eclipse right in their own backyards instead of having to travel to other types of events throughout the city or the county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That completes your presentation for the Office of Integrated Development and Economic Development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, next up we have the Office of Integrated Development and Planning with our Director of Planning, Kyle Julian. And I see Ms. Helen Tomic. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle, for being here. What pages will we be talking about in the budget?
Page 58 in the budget, page 13 in the goals and objectives.
58?
58.
Okay.
And good afternoon, Chair Lombardo, President Somerville, the rest of the members of council. And thank you for the opportunity to discuss the operating budget for the planning department today. As Chair Lombardo said, my name is Kyle Julian. I'm the Planning Director and oversee the Department of Planning and Urban Development. And the Department of Planning and Urban Development comprises 3 divisions, each staffed by talented and hardworking individuals performing essential functions that guide Akron's development forward. Yesterday, we saw a really great example of the collaborative work that this department does, collaborative across divisions, across individuals, in planning, with other departments, with council, with other organizations, and with the residents. And I'm referring, of course, to the work to present the transformation plan for Summit Lake and the rezoning of that neighborhood as well. That's the kind of work that we do and strive to do, and it was great work. And so we have the 3 divisions, and I'll introduce them individually and let the managers talk through the work that they do and plan to do here. So we have the Long Range Planning Division managed by Helen Tomick, which engages residents and stakeholders and synthesizes their goals and vision into area plans, oversees the distribution of entitlement funds through the Home Program, Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Services Grant, programs that fund vital services to Akron residents, and the division also manages the capital budget process, which we went through last month. We have the Zoning Division managed by Mike Antonucci, which administers Akron zoning code, reviews requests for zoning certifications, advances requests for conditional use approvals, and ensures zoning compliance. And then finally, we have the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study, or AMATS, managed by Curtis Baker. AMATS is the federally designated metropolitan planning organization for Summit and Portage counties, and it is housed here at the City of Akron. AMATS is responsible for transportation planning and allocating federal funds to enhance transportation networks in Greater Akron. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Curtis Baker here, the Director of AMATS.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be with you today. Just to be brief, and Kyle kind of described what AMATS does, we also cover a portion of Wayne County as well. We are basically, the city acts as AMATS fiscal agent. Our division's funded entirely through federal funds and state matching funds, as well as local share that we collect from each of our individual members. Our budget includes a number of initiatives this year, including a region-wide traffic signal inventory. So we are going to be collecting data on every single signal in the region in this next year. We're also doing another round of Connecting Communities planning grants because we fund planning that integrates land use and transportation. And then we do our kind of nuts and bolts. We take pavement condition ratings for all the streets that are federally eligible for funds, as well as doing traffic counts, speed collection data as requested, et cetera. So we try to provide those services to all of our communities, obviously Akron being the biggest one of them. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Curtis. Councilman Fusco.
Yeah, thanks. I see there's a reduction in personnel. So is that more movement, or?
So, yeah, AMATS had a vacant position. I did speak with Mr. Baker about that. He said that for the time being, they didn't need to fill that position because it is federally funded. If there is a need for that position, we could easily put that back in, but.
Appreciate all your hard work. I know you guys do a great job. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, Curtis, are you employed by the City of Akron? Or?
Yes, so we are City of Akron employees, and all of everything else is, the way it works is that the City of Akron fronts the money for every month of payment, and then we submit our invoices to the state and feds and get the money back. So we essentially kind of run at a zero balance for the city and try not to create a deficit. So we make sure our billings get done on time, so.
All right, awesome. Very good. All right, Mr. Julian, okay, Mr. Antonucci's up.
Good afternoon, Mike Antonucci, I'm the zoning manager. Our zoning's primary function is to administer and enforce the zoning code and subdivision regulations for the city. We have a staff of 6.5. We are the office of the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and Urban Design and Historic Preservation Commission. So we handle those bodies through the zoning office. and happy to answer any questions you have.
Page we're on here for you is 60. 60.
Good question.
Page 68 for zoning, yeah.
Uh-huh. We're not anticipating any big changes in our funding, and that's pretty much, we have office functions.
Now you have, correct me if I'm wrong, the code compliance
Yes, we enforce the zoning code, yes.
enforces, okay, and there's how many employees for that?
I'm sorry?
How many employees for the
Well, we have
code?
6.5 employees,
Okay.
including myself, in zoning.
So the other 5, like, they have 2, they control or they enforce the code for 2 wards each?
Well,
Is that right?
we're not, so there's neighborhood assistance, I think, that you may be thinking of.
Okay.
That does our inspections, and so Euphrancia Lash is in charge of neighborhood assistance. That's a separate department. But we do work very closely with that department. So, there's oftentimes when you may have a zoning issue in a property, we may also have things like junk vehicles and all grass and weeds. And so a lot of the bad actors out there pretty much have multiple
Okay.
issues. So we all work together.
Work together, very good. Thank you. Councilman Hardy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Julie, Mr. Antonucci. So I see 6.5. Are y'all getting a half an FTE additional, or is that just moving things around?
I'm counting 0.5. We have one, Daniel D'Angelo, actually, who works for long-range planning and zoning. So he does a great job in terms of actually for this form-based zoning that we just presented yesterday. Daniel does a lot of, heavy lifting on design work. He's an architect, so he helps a lot. So it's between long-range planning and zoning.
Got it. And then just a general question. It occurred to me as we are bringing in more of the form-based overlays, and I know this is a big priority for the administration. Is this enough for the zoning department, or are we thinking that we probably need to be thinking about this department in terms of growing or adding additional resources to help manage all of the newness?
That would be great.
Would
We have hardworking people, and they're lifting above their weight, or punching above their weight, I guess is the metaphor. And certainly, as we think about strategic opportunities to invest time with our residents and council, and thinking about how the zoning code would work better for our city and moving it forward, I could envision a time where we'll be tapped. But for now, we'll soldier on.
Okay, thank you. Next up, okay, Helen?
Good afternoon, committee chair, committee members. Thank you so much for an opportunity to present. Not too long ago, we were before you to present the 2024 capital budget, which council passed on February 12th, 2024. We will be starting that process again in spring, summer of 2024. Recently, last week, Congress passed the 2024 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development budget, so the clock has essentially started ticking. They have 60 days to release their allocations to entitlement communities as to the dollar amount of Emergency Solutions Grant Program funds we will receive, the Home Investment Partnership funds we will receive, in addition to the Community Development Block Grant funds. Once those allocations are released, we will then start our planning process for the annual action plan for 2024. The application is due no later than August 15th to HUD. So once they release that allocation, we have about 60 days, 2 months, 3 months to get that process started. We probably will not really receive those funds until late September. The Long Range Planning Division also works with our continuum of care to look at homeless issues, and we work with them closely to make sure that we can maximize the amount of annual allocations we receive to address homeless issues. We have also, this was presented yesterday, we've talked about Summit Lake and the Choice Neighborhoods application. In the next couple of months, we'll be working closely with the Housing Authority to prepare that application in hopes of submitting it to HUD in late 2024 for the construction of new Summit Lake apartments. We also continue to work with our CDCs and other partners to strengthen our neighborhoods and to facilitate development throughout the city of Akron. Thank you.
Okay, so I think this is my opportunity to ask the question about the Great Streets program. Is that right? So I'll ask, on what page would that appear in the budget?
So Great Streets is, give me 1 second. We do not itemize that as Great Streets.
Right, that's what I
So
thought.
on page 64.
64, right?
Yep, it's, I believe, Steve, it's under the service contracts. So that is also looking at other programs that we run, including community services program and our community development CDCs.
Okay, so the 4.2 is budgeted. I'm looking at that, page
It's about
64.
$4.2 million.
Okay,
Again, these are all projections because we don't know what our allocation is going to be for 2024.
okay. Okay, I know it's, you know, you can look back at 23's budget and see that our expenses exceeded the budget from last year. Our hope is that the allocations that you receive could be more than the 4.2.
I will say our Great Streets budget for 2023 was $400,000.
Out of that.
Correct.
Okay.
This also, we also received CDBG, I would call it CDBG COVID dollars in 2021. So we received about $5 million, I believe. So some of those dollar amounts reflect not only CDBG dollars, but CDBG COVID dollars. And those are slowly being spent down, so that attributes to some of the decrease.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Those are my questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Tina, Councilwoman Boyes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just noticed that there was a person and a half, and I apologize, I'm toggling between screens, and I don't remember which section of the long-range planning that was on, but are you losing a person and half of a person's capacity? And if so, in what area is that being, yeah?
So the answer to that is no, they're not losing a person. That was a situation where we moved Mr. Julian and half of his administrative assistant from the CIP fund, which is the capital fund, to the general fund. So we were just trying to align kind of the responsibilities with where people are charged. So we still have the capital planning staff charged to the capital planning fund, but the planning director and 50% of his executive assistant are now charged to the general fund. So it's just kind of aligning things where they were years ago. So we just did, especially within planning and OID, those are the big places where we have more people that are split amongst funds because CD funds a lot of those positions. So there was just some realignment in how some of those people are charged.
Can I add, this is also an example with Mr. D'Angelo. He was charged 100% to CDBG. We split those costs with zoning. And as Mr. Fricker alluded to during a different presentation, we reviewed all of our staffing, and there's an individual where we felt that not all of the work was CDBG eligible, so that part of that person's time was moved to the general fund, just to make sure we're accountable to the expenses of the federal funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilman Fusco has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. The, excuse me, first question referencing the goals. And could explain just a little bit the item number 15 under the accomplishments. On page 23, collected $190,000 under the Deferred Loan Rehabilitation Program. I'm just curious what that is.
So
Is this under Bush, that program from a long time ago?
So over the past 20, 30 years, the city of Akron has initiated a housing rehabilitation program. And this was when rehab was still under planning. So as we were rehabilitating those houses, if those expenses exceeded $7,500, we went ahead and rehabilitated the house, whatever work needed to be done. Anything over $7,500 was given to the homeowner as a deferred loan. So that meant no payments, no interest, until the time of the sale of that house. That could be in 2 years, 10 years, or 15 years. So that we have a lot of loans out there that are CDBG and or home loans. So that's an annual repayment of people either selling their houses or paying back that loan to us that we issued to them when we rehabilitated their house.
So you guys do that in-house yourself?
Yes.
Or do you contract
It's
out?
in-house.
Interesting. Thank you. Next question is kind of like for Steve, page 67. This is it's under long-range planning, but it's the ARPA grant. If it's okay with the chairman, if you don't mind, if you could just briefly walk us through that, just if you don't mind, because there's a lot of numbers that are, significant, like, we see 23 budget was 13 million and the expenses ended up being 2, and now the 24 budget is showing 433. And even lower than that would be the 7 million budgeted and for service contracts, et cetera. And so I assume this is all ARPA.
It is all ARPA. So the big change where you see, as you stated, the 13 million budget in 23, that's where we budgeted. So we budgeted the amounts that we're going to move. So we talked about this yesterday. So we're going to, in order to utilize the ARPA funds for the general fund revenue replacement, we're going to move safety salaries to the ARPA fund. So last year we budgeted that all here within the one ARPA planning cost center. This year that's actually budgeted within 3 separate cost centers. So there's a police ARPA, a fire ARPA, and a safety ARPA. So it's just where it's all in the ARPA fund, but we're showing the labor costs in different cost centers. And that's so we're able to actually capture. So when I look at the police department for, what we spend in 2024, it's going to pick up those figures, just as it did last year. So we actually charged it that way last year. We just didn't budget it that way.
Going to be reflected under a different department.
So that's what that
Fire.
represents, correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you so much for presenting today.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is our Citizens Police Oversight Board. Okay, Police Oversight Board, thank you for being here today. I know a few of you. Kemp, you're going to start off with speaking.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chairman Lombardo. Thank you to Representative Council, also President Somerville. Thank you so much. We're excited about the opportunity to be able to make our first presentation of our budget, and representing with me is Mr. Brandon Costa, who chairs our Finance Committee for our board, and also Mr. Robert Gippin, who chairs our Governance Committee for our board. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Costa if you want to review anything as far as our budget.
Sure, I'll just provide a brief overview. As you all know, the Oversight Board was established. You figured I'd have that down by now.
We're going to be on what page here?
So this is page 175. It's the last page in the book.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yep, no worries. So as you all know, the Police Oversight Board was formed after the passage of Issue 10, which did establish the Police Oversight Board. The Police Oversight Board's mission is to foster conditions and police practices that ensure the safety of all residents of the city of Akron. The board oversees the Office of Independent Police Auditor and its 3 employees, which are established under the charter. The board established and passed a strategic plan, I believe it was back in October, which broadly encompassed its fiscal goal, which was to steward and use taxpayer dollars in a fiscally responsible manner. And under that broad goal, we had 3 specific items that we laid out that we wanted to achieve as we moved forward, which was to recommend an annual budget that meets the needs of the Police Oversight Board based on its actions, priorities, and plan that has specific relevant budget line items that is in alignment with the City of Akron's budgeting timeline and fiduciary procedures, to establish fiduciary procedures for executing contracts, purchases, reimbursements, and to convene a meeting of philanthropic leaders to present the board's strategic priorities and a case for funding to build capacity. And so, as we planned for the 2024 fiscal year, we went into it keeping these goals and objectives in mind, and we also framed the budget by first taking a look at our 2023 budget and walking through a line item process with Steve Fricker, the city's finance director, in order to, in essence, propose what we thought would help the board best accomplish its goals and priorities for the year coming up. So there were some modest increases under the budget, but I think that you would see that to a large extent, the bulk of the expenses under the budget largely reflect the revenue, the salaries that are needed for our 3 employees, in addition to miscellaneous expenses, but also expenses that are going to help us to get into the community. At the end of the day, I think everybody wants this board to have a part in improving police and community relationships, and we think that it's vital in order to do that, to be in the community, to facilitate programming, and to, in essence, create spaces that build a better relationship and links the bridge between those 2 constituencies. So I'm happy to answer any questions on behalf of the board or hand it over to either of my colleagues, which are quite equipped to do so too.
Thank you, Brandon. Any questions for the Citizens Oversight Board? Not seeing any. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Hardy, go ahead.
Just a quick update, if you can, on the status of the police auditor search and when we might expect to see the launch of the deputy.
Well, Councilman Hardy, we're really excited. This Friday, we're actually having a special meeting to take a vote to make a formal offer to one Mr. Anthony Fennell as far as coming in as our auditor. If that passes, we believe that we're probably getting a deputy is probably going to be anywhere between, probably within his hopefully first 90 days on the job. But that is a important role. Mr. Fennell knows that also. And the fact that hopefully trying to get somebody that is more within the city of Akron is the utmost importance, not only to us as a board, but also to Mr. Fennell as well.
Thank you. Very good. No other questions. So I think you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't hear too much You didn't talk like there was going to be a vote and Mr. Fennell would be on board by next week, let's say. You say that you're going to try to get someone inside to come forward and put them on the board as the auditor?
No.
Did I misunderstand you?
I'm sorry. We're having a special meeting as a board this Friday to vote to make we're voting to extend a former offer to Mr. Fennell to possibly come on as our auditor. That's what we're going to do this Friday.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to that, more specifically, the resolution that's going to be offered will be to appoint him as the auditor. So that's what we'll be voting on. I think there's pretty wide expectation it'll pass, but until we vote, we don't know that.
Thank you. Very good. Well, again, thank you for your time this afternoon. Good luck.
Thank you all for everything you do.
Public safety will be next.
Okay, so for Public Safety Administration, and that's the first, that's going to show up on page 70 of the budget documents you have. So, different from years past, we no longer have a deputy mayor for public safety. However, within this budget, we are going to budget 2 positions, some of which have been talked about publicly. So we are going to hire the city's first emergency management director. That is going to be Chief Natco when he leaves his role as fire chief. So that is budgeted within the Public Safety Administration budget. And then we're also going to add a new position that is dedicated to recruiting and retaining public safety personnel. And that position will also reside within the Public Safety Administration budget.
Thank you.
And then what we do have also within public safety is the 911 call center. And I believe we have Captain Laughlin here to share his thoughts about the 911 dispatch center.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Captain Laughlin.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
I have hosted several of you out to the new dispatch center. We just opened in October of 2023, and it's been a huge morale boost for my team out there. So I want to thank those who are part of council for that, for their support. A lot of work being done. Is a great partnership with Summit County. Also been in many of your ward meetings talking about our communications center. And, I love to talk and praise the great work that they do. So just want to kind of highlight a few things from last year and kind of some goals we have for 2024. Despite being about 15%, between 15 and 20% short in staffing, we handled 356,000 calls for service. 170,000 of those were 911. The state has mandates on call answer rates. We were well within those guidelines, which is a financial boost for the city of Akron. We had 94% of our calls answered within 15 seconds, and 96% were handled within 20 seconds. So very, very proud of the work that our team does out there. We won some awards at the state conference this year. We won the statewide, had the trainer of the year, and the center won the Gold Ribbon Award. So we were awarded the Gold Ribbon Award as in that category as the best center in the state of Ohio. Again, very, very proud of the work that the team does. Short staff, they bring positive energy every day and just delivering very high level of service to our community. 2024, as I mentioned, we've been short 15 to 20%, so my focus is going to be recruiting, hiring, retention, more community engagement. Our team likes being out in the community, recruiting events, so expanding that more into some community engagement efforts. training and professional development of our team. All of this with the focus of continuing to deliver, award-winning, excellent service to our community. So I appreciate your support, appreciate those of you that allowed me to come to your award meetings. It's been very mutually beneficial, so thank you.
Thank you. Just one question. In an emergency, I'm sure when you call 911, you expect someone to answer right away, and going from 5 seconds to 15 seconds could be an eternity for somebody having the emergency. So, but my question is, and you done great with 94%, but because it goes into 20 seconds sometimes, is that a fact that you're short of staff, and that's why if there was more staff on hand, you can get
It's a combination. We have a critical incident, it could be a crash or some other type of a critical incident. Everybody calls. So the phone lines are very overworked. Sometimes we have to cut some people off quick, say, yes, we have it, unless they have something additional to add. So those can really elevate the numbers. But the state requires 90% in 95% in 15 seconds and 90% in, 90 and 95. I got those reversed. But yeah, some of it is staffing, but we do have a minimum staffing, which requires us to mandate people to stay over. That's why one of my big efforts is on recruiting, hiring, and retention, so that our staff does have the opportunity to spend time away from work with their families and take care of themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Right. Thanks. Good information. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, just very briefly. Great job in terms of turning that around. As we know, years ago, it was a tough place in terms of how things worked and the morale that you spoke of. And I know if anyone has not seen the new call center, please take the time and get out there. It's great. But again, it's not long ago. Like I said, it was a couple of years back, but I know morale was really low. And you guys have done all the right things in terms of management and so on and so forth. And kudos to APD. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. And Chief Harding was there before me, kind of got the ball rolling out there, and I've just been riding that wave and just trying to, improve some process and make things better. And I say those of you went out there that met the team out there, they are just overjoyed with that new center, and it's going to pay dividends for us. That's a very, a great investment for the city of Akron into our community.
Great. Thank you so much. Councilman Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just +1, Councilman Fusco's praise of the call center and the call center staff and management. It really is spectacular, and we thank you. I'm just curious if anyone might be able to speak to the aspirations for the recruitment retention position. I'm super supportive. Just want to hear a little bit more about how we envision that person executing their role, if it's built off of another city, has similar roles, et cetera.
Hi, good afternoon. So we envision this role to be a role that will work interdepartmental between police, fire, labor, and HR, and really be focused on what are the best practices to not only recruit officers, also perhaps looking at lateral hiring, but also retention. So that's really big for us, because sometimes we do recently we've been having good luck bringing in large classes, but once they kind of come on, they are kind of for lack of a better word, poached by other communities. And so we need to look at ways to do that. And we need someone really focused on it. If you think there's over 1,000 people between our police and fire roughly. And so kind of having some dedicated focus to that initiative, I think will really be good in terms of lifting the morale of our safety forces and letting them know we're really trying to focus on not only getting staff, but retaining staff.
Thank you.
I would like to add to that, we have a great partnership with HR that's been really evolving, directing us and partnering with us on our recruiting in the dispatch center. We've just in the 1 month we had of the recruiting right now, we probably got 6-8 different events. HR helped partner with that, and we're there with us every step of the way, and they've been great partners for me in the communications center, so I do appreciate their help. And I say this position I think will only enhance that for us collectively as safety forces.
Good to know. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councilwoman Amobian.
Thank you. We heard during the retreat how active some of your officers have been in terms of going places they've never gone before and helping to prepare citizens in a way they've never helped them before. And that is added to the number of candidates we had for the class. So those efforts sounds like they are just perfect for what we're trying to do in terms of creating a diverse workforce and getting all kinds of people ready and prepared for the class. So I'm just thrilled that hopefully we can continue those efforts, because it sounds like we've had a large police class as well as a large fire class this year. And it sounds great. So thanks for the efforts.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate all your time.
Okay. Now, is it Chief Harding? Oh. Oh, okay. Are you going to speak? Are you with? Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. Councilman Fusco has one more question.
Steve, can you help us with, I'm seeing here a significant reduction in the, if we could digress, the 911 call center enhanced wireless fund. It's on page like 73.
Yes, so my understanding is that there's going to be a little bit of a change. So those are funds that are collected by the county and then distributed out to the communities. It's my understanding, and maybe Captain Laughlin can address this better than I can.
Okay, thank you.
Can probably address it better than me.
Yeah, 2024, the state has come out with a new model for funding. Used to be based on the number of safety communications center within your county. They've gone to increasing the fund, the number of devices, but also for funding the next gen 911. So we had to come up with a new model for funding in Summit County, and that was presented to the mayor and the county executive and their representatives last week. So they're still figuring out the new model, what that money is going to look like and how we realize it for Akron. So we're in a state of flux right now until the state definitely determines what that's going to look like for us.
Is it still 3? Wasn't it for that county? A couple of years back, there was.
It was 4, but we funded 5 because of Summit County being with us. Now, every single PSAP, every single communications center in the county can receive those funds. So there was a change in that model that all of them are available to take advantage. Now, we're still obviously the largest portion. We potentially could go down a few percentage points, but our hope is that the increase in revenue by a couple cents will offset that. Basically, we've created a whole new model for distributing that money to be more of a county-wide sharing of services like we do with our computer-aided dispatch and other services, to go to more of a county-wide model for interoperability performance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Well, next up is our fire chief, Chief Natko. And
well, good afternoon.
Thank you for being here.
Councilman Lombardo, thank you. Council members and President Somerville, thank you. Again, I am Fire Chief Joseph Natko. I will be in this role for another 10 days, and then to my immediate left is Deputy Chief Kaut. He will be the interim fire chief until a new fire chief is selected. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the accomplishments we made last year and our goals for next year. Last year we had just short of 50,000 calls. Those calls were a combination of fire and EMS calls. The vast majority of the calls were EMS. Over 90%, almost 90% of them were EMS in nature. We had something occur last year where AMR, which was our private ambulance contractor, exited the city, and we didn't really have staffing to handle that situation, but through the use of overtime and hiring a new class, we were able to handle the exit of AMR. And I appreciate everything that finance did and the mayor did in order to get us to the position where we could handle it. The calls that AMR handled for us, the transports that AMR handled for us, the transports into the hospital, they averaged about 1,000 a month. So that was a workload that the fire department took on. The additional hospital transports of about 1,000 a month, 12,000 a year. So last year and then the last 5 months of last year, which is when we handled the workload, it was about 5,000 calls. In order for the fire department to handle this, not only did we need to utilize overtime, we needed to hire a class, and we needed to put units on, additional med units on. Last year, we were able to put on 2 additional med units, which increased our ambulance, frontline ambulance service exponentially. We also initiated a discussion for the program called Scout. It is a mobile unit that handles behavioral health calls. We started discussions last year. It took quite a bit, but early this year we were able to put it into service, and that's the efforts through the efforts of us, the Akron Police Department, and Summit County. We had several programs that were very beneficial to the city, such as our smoke and alarm installation program. We installed over 1,000 smoke detectors in the city last year, which in turn keeps structure fires at bay. Despite that, we still saw a rise in structure fires last year. Last year, we were able to hire a class of 42. That class of 42, unfortunately, did not get hired until almost November, and they were in the academy and were just recently released onto the line it was like a breath of fresh air for our folks out there on the line to get 41 new recruits out on the line. I know I said we hired a class of 42. We lost one during the training. One because of medical reasons had to leave. So 41 firefighters entered the workforce here just a couple of weeks ago, and it was really helped. It will help to reduce the overtime. That's a big thing. Last year we chose to engage a new record management system. It's called Image Trend, and it puts us in the 21st century as far as our data entry into which was an aging system. So we really modernized our efforts with the use of this. It takes everything from fire reporting and EMS reporting, and it really puts it light years ahead for us. We're able to get a lot of statistics out of that, which will in turn will benefit us in the long run as far as applying for grants and just overall makes for a better workforce. On to 2024 and some of our goals for this year. We want to add one more med unit. That is our plans. Our goal was to add 3 additional med units to the city. We're well on our way towards that. We're just waiting on the additional ambulance to come in and some equipment that we are purchasing for that ambulance. It's quite expensive, all the stuff that we put on an ambulance. We are going to closely monitor our Scout program, the behavioral health program. It is a program that's a pilot program, but we just know in our gut that this program will do so much good. It will reduce some 911 calls. It will get some folks who need some help to a better place. And we believe that the program will grow as we continue to monitor it. We're looking at it weekly, tweaking it, improving it, making it adapt to what we want it to look like. Also, this year we're going to train a specialty team of 30 members to be prepared for the 2025 North Ohio Interceptor Canal Project. It's a specialty tunnel team that we have to train and have them up to speed in case there's any issues with the tunnel project that will start in the spring of next year. So we're looking forward to that training. We have a group that's all ready to go, and we think we're pretty confident in their capabilities. Through budget talks with Steve Fricker, we've fine-tuned our staffing where we know we need just a few more. And he's given us the ability to take our workforce up to over 402 to be exact. And we're looking forward to fill the roles to get to 402 in our staffing. This will further help us to be able to handle this huge workload that we inherited last year with the exit of AMR. Our folks have really been getting beat up with the overtime that they've needed to do to help us do business. And again, we hope that overtime can and it will reduce. The next class, we currently are 15 short to get to that role of 402, but we know there will be more retirements, probably in the area of 10, and we hope to put on a class of 25 before this year is up. We hope to get them into the academy and again, put that in our workforce. In addition to that, Finance has approved us an overtime budget to help us with this huge lift that we're doing right now. We have something that is really unique, I think, to the fire department, and it's a grant team. And the grant team's working with the city, and it is, we hope to use this grant team to help us with some federal funding. Not only federal funding for equipment, but for federal funding for personnel. And we've been successful in the past, but we think we'll be even better once this grant team engages with some of the city grant leaders, as well as our grant team on the fire department. You know what, I failed to identify what page of the budget we were on, I'm sorry, but that was 125, and I believe it goes through 132. So, if there are any questions, please send them my way, and I'll try and answer them. If I can't, I'm sure Steve can.
All right. One question I have is, when you're getting that additional med unit that you talked about, it's issue 4 that was passed in what year? 2000 for police, fire, and roads. 2015.
So I believe we passed it in 2017, and it started in 2018 in terms of the collection of the tax.
Okay. So my question is, every year when we get those monies, is that why we're getting this med unit? I mean, I know we're building a new fire station and things like that, but is that because of these issue 4 dollars?
So it certainly helps with the capital dollars for the fire department. So, you know, with those issue 4 dollars, we've done, you know, obviously we've built 3 new fire stations.
Right. Trucks.
We've bought a number of, you know, the large dollar equipment, you know, the engines and things like that. And we have used about $2 million each year to supplement or to maintain our staffing levels. So, you know, those dollars have helped both with capital and with operating in the fire department and the police department.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately, our vehicles are very expensive.
Yes.
And a fire engine is over $900,000 right now. A new ladder truck is well over $1 million, and an ambulance is $250,000, and that's without anything on it. So those are some of the things that issue 4 helps us just replace. As the fleet ages, we have to replace things and keep them going.
Right, and it's also, I know you know this, projecting like that it takes, you know, you put in the order today, by the time you get the truck, it's 16 months from now. I don't know.
Yes.
Just guessing, right?
Yes. We're building that into the budget where we've got another engine and 2 med units, I believe.
So I'll step back for 1 second, if I may, as far as the capital budget and where the med units come from. Back when issue 4 was passed, before issue 4, we did have traditional capital budget that did come from income tax revenue. And one of the discussions was to ensure that we continue to get that capital along with the issue 4. Part of that original capital was vehicle replacement funds. And so we still use that capital for most of our med unit purchases. Now, the issue 4, we've been very fortunate to have issue 4, and that typically funds our fire apparatus, which Chief Natko said, yeah, can run us up to $1 million or more per vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
But we are currently working with a vendor who we discovered last year. We did quite a search as we were looking to add additional med units to our fleet. The typical turnaround time, since COVID, there's been still supply chain issues with a lot of the vehicles. Turnaround time is 24 to 36 months when you order a med unit. So we were able to do a lot of research, and we developed a relationship with a company out of Niles, Ohio, and we're able to get med units in about 6 months. So we've met with them recently. We are placing an order for 2 med units currently that we hope to see in October this year.
Very good. That's awesome, from 36 months to 6 months. Wow. Councilman Hanna, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I know this is a budget hearing, but I didn't hear you mention anything about minority hiring. And are you going to set aside any monies for recruiting minorities?
Let me first, I guess, step back to the class that we just hired, the class that just came out, the 41. This class was, I think, I can real safely say it was the most diverse class that we ever hired in AFD's history. Of the 41, 34 were male, 7 were female. Of the 41, 11 were black. 9 were either they were either Hispanic or they were biracial, and 21 were white. And that was, was something we were very conscious of when we were conducting the interviews and hiring the individuals. We've got a pretty good recruitment team internally. I think the city's recruitment efforts will also help towards that. With the class that we hope to hire this year yet, we have yet to look at the list to see what that looks like as far as minorities, but our eye will be on that.
Thank you.
If I could also mention that, Councilman Hanna, that some of our recruiting is embedded in our operating account in the wages. So a lot of the recruiting is basically wages. It's some of our community service people that go out and do that recruiting for us. So not specifically a line item that you'll see, but it's embedded in other areas of our operating account or operating budget.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Mobian.
I'd just like to make a couple of things. I know that Officer Lash has been extremely helpful in helping to recruit this diverse class that we have. We're in the budget, and can you talk to me about Scout? Where is it in the budget for? The Scout is the Summit County Outreach Treatment Team, and that is the team that's going to do the mobile crisis work. And it's starting, did it start already, or it started this month? It started this month?
It started last week.
Last week, okay.
A week ago, last Monday, it started. The budget, again, that's what you'll find that in our wages. We have one person who has been assigned to our MCU unit, our Scout unit. APD has a person, and also Summit County ADM Board has a person assigned to it. That's the 3-person team that it consists of. Now, as far as getting it up and running, that was actually a collaboration and donation from Summit County Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board.
Sure.
They received a grant. We contracted with them. We have purchased the vehicle and the equipment, the radios, items such as that, and they're reimbursing us for all of that. So that is in a separate part of the budget. It's in actually a grant module within Workday where all that activity can be seen. So the budget, the operating budget to continue to operate that is within our wages and that one person who's assigned to it.
So you only have one person now?
Well, we have one person that's actually assigned to it. We have multiple people in our EMS bureau that we have as backups. Okay. So when that person's off, we have multiple people that are going to be trained also to be able to work that unit.
So it's basically, my understanding is that it's just going to run during the day for now, And as it grows and you understand better, because you're trying to keep people from the emergency service at PEZ and the emergency rooms as much as possible, or get them to a treatment source.
We, we looked at our run volume for behavioral health calls, and just within fire, we saw about 5,000 calls last year that were behavioral health oriented, and that's actually more than what that vehicle can take. So we know that the police department goes with us on many of those calls, but they also have some calls that are in excess of that. So we know the volume is there, and the pilot program, the intent of it is to iron it out, see what we need to tweak, how can we grow it. I think it can grow, we know that. We just have to do it smartly.
Oh, yeah, it certainly can grow. We know that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Hardy. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, just curious, our total runs or calls for service, they keep going up. So I guess my question is that an accurate statement that at least in the time that I had been paying attention since 2015, 2016, we keep breaking last year's record? Is that true? And then if yes, how are we thinking about, or what help do y'all need to help stem that tide of sort of ever growing calls for service?
This year, as compared to last year, our run volume was really pretty even. We didn't grow that much. We did see our fire volume grow by about 2%, but our EMS volume dropped by about 2%. And we owe part of that drop in the EMS volume to some programs we have out there. It's a community paramedicine unit that goes out and visits people in their homes before they call 911 to try and get ahead of the 911 call. We have a team that goes out on opiate referrals to try and get folks help who we know have an addiction issue and have called for overdose type situations in the past. So we have a couple of programs out there that are trying to reduce the EMS volume, kind of like fire prevention. We call it EMS prevention. It's just trying to, some people, the only thing they know to do is call 911. And we're trying to get ahead of that a little bit, Councilman Hardy.
Thank you. Very good. Councilman Fusco.
I just want, no questions, just as kind of a brief statement. This is the way the previous year goals ought to be reported. I think you've done a great job of stating the goal from last year, and I love the bullet points, making it much easier to, comprehend, what have you. But the way this is reported, I think it's spot on the way you've reported there. 23 accomplishments. And, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. 9 days to go now, right? I'm just kidding. All right. Well, again, thank you for your time. Akron Fire Department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. And next will be our our police department, Captain Brian Harding. All right, and so this is our Akron Police presentation, and Captain Brian Harding, thank you for being here. Captain
we're on page 133.
133.
I want to start by thank you, Chair, Councilman Lombardo, President Somerville, and all of City Council, as well as Mayor Malik, for your continued support of public safety and specifically your police department. This budget, I think, shows that support that's coming to continue to invest in public safety. I want to start with a couple highlights and key statistics that I think are important to share from the police department in 2023. Started with, we responded to 135,000 calls for service last year. This was an average of 370 calls per day, but we were down 4% last year, which is a good trend. Our use of force incidents, we had 250 last year. This was a 16% increase, but that's 1 in every 540 calls for service. I would like to note, and I think this is important, that of those 250, 67% were open hand or no weapon was used, primarily takedown. Complaints were down 11% last year with 40, and that is 1 in every 3,376 calls for service before we have a documented complaint. That's a number we're extremely proud of. Additionally, murders were down 40% last year to 26. While we're still not happy with that number, that is naturally a trend that we want to continue to see. Our 5-year homicide solve rate is 63%, while the national average is 53%. I think that's a testament to the work of our Detective Bureau and help and support that we get from the community. Additionally, last year our officers recovered 875 guns, and we prosecuted 24 people federally with assistance of our federal partners on firearm-related charges. A few key highlights based on kind of our initiatives from last year. The first was recruiting, hiring, and retention. Last year we were able to have a testing of over 1,000 applicants, which was a significant increase from what we've seen in years prior. We were able to graduate a Fast Track Academy in January of 2023. That had 7 officers. Fast Track for us is OPATA certified officers. That makes a much shorter academy class for us because they're already certified. Additionally, we had 31 new officers graduate in September of 2023. Community engagement. We have a program where we call it Park and Walks. That's where our officers proactively call out on proactive activities in the community where they get out and talk to neighbors and reach out. We did 1,702 of those last year. That's primarily by our patrol officers. Our community relations and CET officers also supported over 200 additional programs. Our zone commanders and community engagement team officers continue to maintain regular communication with council, appear at ward meetings, and attempt to keep the community informed of what's going on in their neighborhood. A couple challenges for us that I wanted to highlight. Staffing continues to be a challenge. In 2023, we had 33 officers retire or resign from the department. We did add 38, so that's a positive of 3, but that is an area we continue to see retirements and resignations. At the end of 2023, the police department stood at 445 sworn personnel, but I think it's important to note of that, 119 or over roughly 27% are currently eligible for retirement. So we continue to recruit.
119.
While we saw an overall reduction in murders in 2023, we still continue to see way too many guns being used to commit crime in our community, and we'll be talking about that here in a minute on some of our goals for 2024. Another area that we continue to see some challenge in is regarding public records requests, specifically around body-worn camera footage. We've seen a 192% increase over the last 2 years in requests for body-worn camera footage. That is not sustainable where we're currently staffed. When I say that, that would be over 6,000 minutes of video for community and over 151 minutes of video for prosecutor's office. So the issue turns into a lot of those require redaction, and that's a manual process for us now. So that's an area we continue to look for with staffing and looking for technology to assist us with. Also want to now go on to our 2024 goals and objectives. Our number 1 goal is going to be community engagement and relationship building. To me, that's the pillar of what we need to be doing, and that's what we're going to continue to focus on. We're going to continue to expand our community engagement efforts to place an emphasis on building relationships, not just showing up, but taking the time to build relationships with the people we serve every day. One of our first ones will be the starting again of our Citizens Police Academy. We hope to host that twice this year. The first time will be in the spring. I believe each of you were invited. I would encourage you to attend. We'd be eager for you to have you be part of that. We're going to continue to increase our park and walks this year. I'm happy to report for the first 2 months of this year, we've seen a 129% increase over last year. Hopefully that's something we can continue to maintain. I think that really makes a big difference when our officers can get out and engage with the community, especially in the area that they serve every day. Also, continued partnership with our Citizens Oversight Board. I know that they mentioned about community outreach, and that's an area that we're excited to partner with them on. I think that is beneficial for both groups. The next is a reduction of violent crime with an emphasis specifically on gun crime. To continue to have a positive effect on the reduction of crime, it will take the entire community. We continue to foster relationships and partner with people we serve to focus on deterring and, if needed, investigate violent crime. I think it's important that we try to spend as much time as we can to prevent crime and deter crime and not just respond to what happens. We'll continue to seek out and utilize grant funds to analyze data and deploy resources to the areas hardest hit by violent crime. I think it's important that we have a very targeted approach to what we're doing and not just saturation patrols. We've seen results, and that's been something we've been focusing on. We're going to continue to partner with board meetings with the community and community outreach and other civic engagement to improve information sharing and deliver crime prevention programming. We're going to continue our federal partnerships to work on the most violent offenders, targeting gun crime. That's intelligence-led with not just us, but also our federal partners on trying to target the small percentage of people most involved in violent crime. We're also going to continue to partner with the city and other community stakeholders and nonprofits on that violence prevention. I think that's extremely important. A trend right now that I'm also happy to report is we've seen a 37% reduction in shots fired and shooting calls for service in 2024. That's great, and hopefully we can continue that. The last is recruiting, hiring, and retention. We did have a class start a few weeks ago of 48 new recruits, which is the largest class we've had since at least 1995, and also an extremely diverse class. We continue to target diversity as our recruitment efforts. Our last class had 15 female officers, which is by far the most we've ever had in an academy class. We will be posting again for hiring, hopefully in the next 30 days, for cadets, which is people without certification, as well as attempting to bolster our lateral hire recruitment. And that's another area I'd ask for right now to get in front of, to ask for your help and continued support in that regard as we continue those recruitment efforts. We have a dedicated team right now of 5 officers that have started actively recruiting, and we'll definitely be reaching out in that regard. We continue to work with our HR department on the police cadet incentive program to incentivize other city employees as well to become active recruiters for us, not just our recruiting team, but it really is an all-hands-on-deck approach, 1 from the department and 2 for everybody in the city to continue to ask for your support with that. Another area when we talk about retention is peer support and taking care of the officers we currently have. We were able to roll out a peer support team. We currently have 34 officers that are trained in peer support, and I think that's going to provide a real benefit to our officers to help them deal with the traumatic calls they go to each day. We're going to continue to work on with the mayor's office on the plan for an updated or new police station. We've also worked on relocating and I think it was part of the capital budget, our gym to allow a greater workout time for our officers and improve that as well. We're really lucky to have a dedicated team of public safety servants, and I just want to kind of, real quickly, my last mention here, just kind of say how appreciative we are, and I know you are as well for that. And I want to thank you for all your support. I'd be glad for myself or Captain McCosey to answer any questions you may have around our budget.
Well, thank you. I don't know if it's a comment. I just want to thank you, especially the community engagement team, for having that in the budget because, you know, being present at, I know my ward meeting and also other council people, the ward meeting, having the police presence there is appreciated. So, you know, I'd like to thank Captain Beitzel for doing that all the time. And from the community engagement team, I think that's Sergeant Dracini and his crew. They're always there when I need them. So thank you for having that in the budget.
Thank you.
It's, any more dollars that you need, much appreciated. Thank you. Any questions from council members for Chief Harding or Captain McCosey? I do not see any.
Thank you so much.
Well, that
really
means you're doing a
appreciate
great
it.
job. We appreciate everything that you've done. Okay. Well, That wraps up the agenda for today. Tomorrow, we will be talking with, let's see, our legislative people here, council clerk, and a lot of other departments. And again, the meeting tomorrow will begin at 3 o'clock. Hopefully another 3 to 5, may wrap it up, never know. But everybody, thank you for your time. If there's no other questions, meeting adjourned.